Hi everyone, in this video we're going to dive straight into Isaiah 24. Isaiah 24 is the first chapter in the third cycle of the oracles. And the structure of chapter 24 is divided into three. First we have God's final curse on the earth. Once again, the scope of this judgment is the whole earth. In fact, not just the earth, also the heavens, in fact. And second part is joy and sorrow over God's destruction. The third is the coming king. Okay, all right, let's dive in. Verse 1, behold, the Lord will empty the earth and make it desolate, and he will twist its surface and scatter its inhabitants. Okay, he will empty the earth, the whole earth. He will twist its surface and scatter its inhabitants. This is the proclamation, the statement. One thing I would like to highlight here is the verb, that will empty the earth and make it desolate. Here, it's actually the participle in Hebrew. To lay waste, to make it desolate is the participle, meaning it's an anticipatory use of the participle. In other words, it's not the Lord makes it or will make it desolate. It's more like he is about to lay waste. This is how the NRSV translates it. Now the Lord is about to lay waste. It's something very imminent. Okay, it's not future tense here. It's participle. And it's because Isaiah is giving this immediacy. He is living his days as if the judgment is really, really at hand. And we see this everywhere. And Paul and John the Baptist, they always understood judgment as very, very close and near. And that's the way we should. Isaiah does so here. The Lord is about to lay the earth waste. Okay, so there's a sense of immediacy here. Verse 2. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the slave, so with the master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the creditor, so with the debtor. The earth shall be utterly empty and utterly plundered, for the Lord has spoken his word. So here we see the comprehensive nature of the destruction. Everybody's going to be judged. I don't care if you're Jew or Gentile, priest or people, master or slave, men, women, children, adults, everybody's going to fall into judgment. Once again, this 24 through 27 is eschatological, it's universal, and C, we have the scope of judgment to be everybody. Everybody, the whole earth is going to be judged. Verse 4, we're entering into this section, the reason and the result of the judgment. Verse 4, the earth mourns and withers, the world languishes and withers. The highest people of the earth languish. The earth is defiled under its inhabitants. For they have transgressed the laws, violated the statutes, broken the everlasting covenant. Let's pause here. So this explains the reason for the judgment. And what's the reason? They have transgressed the law. They broke God's law. But once again, let's think about this. What law are we talking about? The Gentiles were never given the Mosaic law to themselves, right? It was the Israelites that were at the Mount Sinai, at the foot of Mount Sinai. And we don't really have any time in the Bible where Gentiles are obligated to keep the Mosaic law. Except in the Old Testament when they convert to join these people. But let's be simple. This universal judgment, and the standard of judgment is God's law. And remember, the word Torah here comes from the word teaching, yara. Okay, it's just God's teaching. And we see in Romans that Paul says, you Gentiles are under judgment because you broke the natural law, the moral laws that you know by nature, that God has embedded in every one of us. We know what's right, what's wrong to a certain extent. You break it, you sinned, and you fall short of God's glory. Jews also have been given the law of Moses. They break it, they fall short of God's glory. And that's the way Paul begins his Romans, the letter to the Romans, by saying everybody is condemned. Everybody is sinful. There's no one, not one, that is righteous. Okay, so this law probably is different for Jews and Gentiles probably, but really what I wanted to highlight is the fact that this chapter has a lot of Noahic elements. I'm not talking about the Noahide laws, okay? That's much later. But Noahic elements. What I mean by this is verse 5. You have the everlasting covenant, which also comes up in the story of Noah. Verse 6, we have therefore a curse devours the earth, which also comes up in Noah's story. Verse 7, we have wine and vine. The wine mourns, the vine languishes. We also have that in Noah's story. Noah plants a vineyard and he gets drunk, right? Furthermore, turn to verse 18 of the chapter 24. Verse 18, we have second half. For the windows of heaven are opened, and the foundation of the earth tremble. We have the windows of heaven in Noah's story when the rain comes. And verse 20, the earth staggers like a drunken man. Okay, Noah, of course, was a drunken man. So we have a lot of these background from the flood narrative. And once again, I think it's to emphasize the universal nature of this judgment. It's not just the Israelites or the Jews, but it's everybody that's going to be judged. And hence, Isaiah is bringing in Noahic elements to set the background for this chapter to be applied to all of the earth. Okay, verse 6, we're going to go into the result of the judgment. I mean, actually continue on the reason and the result of the judgment. 6, therefore a curse devours the earth, and its inhabitants suffer for their guilt. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are scorched, and few men are left. The wine mourns, the vine languishes, all the merry-hearted sigh. Backtrack to verse 6. It says, therefore the inhabitants of the earth are scorched, and few men are left. And if you remember Revelation 6 and 9, half the world's population will die during the seal and the trumpet judgments. So it's probably that what's being spoken of here. Remember, Isaiah doesn't use John's terminology, but we can kind of match some of these details that Isaiah gives to John's apocalypse. This is one example. Not only few men are going to be left. John says half the world will die. All right, reading on, verse 8. The mirth of the tambourines is stilled, the noise of the jubilant has ceased. The mirth of the lyre is stilled, no more do they drink wine with singing. Strong drink is better to those who drink it. The wasted city is broken down, every house is shut up, so that none can enter. There is an outcry in the streets for lack of wine. All joy has grown dark, the gladness of the earth is banished. Desolation is left in the city, the gates are battered into ruins. For thus it shall be in the midst of the earth among the nations, as when an olive tree is beaten, as at the gleaning when the grape harvest is done. So Isaiah is saying the judgment is going to be pretty bad. Everybody's going to be sad. Nobody's going to be singing and rejoicing. And verse 10, the wasted city is broken down. Every house is shut up so that no one can enter. The wasted city is Kiryat Tohu. And I don't know if you remember the word tohu, tohu vavohu. When earth was formless and void in chapter 1 of Genesis, it's the same word that's used here to describe the wasted city. It's going to be just like complete chaos, complete lack of order as prior to the creation that this judgment is going to bring. One thing that I want to highlight before moving on is verse 13. For thus it shall be in the midst of the earth among the nations, as when an olive tree is beaten, as at the gleaning when the grape harvest is done. We have here this sense of remnant once again. The judgment will be like the harvest of olives and grapes, where there will be few people left at the end. You know, there's some olives that, people don't pick up 100% of it. There's some at the very top of the tree that they just kind of, I'm not going to get a taller ladder to just get that. They just kind of move on sometimes. That's kind of be like that. There will be some people left at the end. A remnant will survive. Believers will be there alive. Verse 14, they lift up their voices. This they is those remnants, those who are alive. They lift up their voices, they sing for joy. Over the majesty of the Lord they shout from the west. Therefore in the east give glory to the Lord. In the coastlands of the sea give glory to the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. From the ends of the earth we hear songs of praise, of glory to righteous one. Stop here. So it's saying we have this remnant's joyful song in the midst of the judgment. Okay, this is a very commonly repeated literary technique where declarations of coming judgment are interspersed with songs of thanksgiving. And if you read the book of Revelation straight through, you will see the same kind of thing. There's terrible judgment, and then randomly people just come and praise the Lamb who sits on the throne and so on, right? It's really, John is probably picking up that from Isaiah, right? So we have these people singing praise to God because they know they're safe in God because of their relationship with God. However, there's somebody that is sad in 16b. But I say, I waste away, woe is me. I. Notice the change in the speaker. It's first person singular, I. Who is I? It's Isaiah. Okay? I waste away, woe is me. Why is Isaiah so sad? For the traitors have betrayed, with betrayal the traitors have betrayed. Terror and the pit and the snare are upon you, O inhabitants of the earth. He who flees at the sound of terror shall fall into the pit, and he who climbs out of the pit shall be caught in the snare, for the windows of heaven are opened. And the foundations of the earth tremble. The earth is utterly broken. The earth is split apart. The earth is violently shaken. The earth staggers like a drunken man. It sways like a hut. Its transgression lies heavy upon it, and it falls and will not rise again. So here, until verse 20, we have the sorrow of the prophet. Okay? Although Isaiah probably knows he is one of the people who will make it through the tribulation, through this judgment, being one of the few people that's going to be singing praises to God. Although Isaiah anticipated that, he also felt sorrow because there's just because of the fact that there are people who are going to perish, who are not right with God, they're going to be punished. And that brings sorrow for Isaiah. So this is very important for us to learn that sometimes it's easy for us to say, I'm saved, so I'm saved, I'm safe. So it's cool, all done. But there are so many people that are also perishing because they are not where they should be in their relationship with God. There are so many people all around the world that do not know God and is on the way to get perished. And we should always have agony and sadness for them and not just be content about the fact that we are saved. Because there's so many people who are on their way to be eternally condemned by God. And Isaiah's doing just that because God's heart is like that. God's not happy and rejoicing in torturing people in hell. No, he is sad about the people that do not know him and have their backs turned back. And Isaiah shows the right kind of attitude that we should have when we see people who do not know the Lord. Verse 21, moving on to the last third section, the coming king. On that day, the Lord will punish the host of heaven in heaven and the kings of the earth on the earth. Once again, it's not just global judgment, it's a universal judgment. Okay? Spirits, evil spirits, demons, and Satan will also be judged. Verse 22, they will be gathered together as prisoners in a pit. They will be shut up in a prison, and after many days they will be punished. This many days, they're going to be shut up in prison. After many days they will be punished. It probably is the millennial kingdom that John describes of in Revelation 20. Like how the serpent is going to be thrown into the dungeon, but he's not going to be really destroyed until later he's going to crawl back out and do that final last attack. But then he's going to get destroyed completely. It's probably what Isaiah is talking about here. Or really, in other words, John is probably talking about what Isaiah is talking about here. Verse 23, then the moon will be confounded and the sun ashamed, for the Lord of hosts reigns on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and his glory will be before his elders. So we have in the last verse here, and other places all throughout Isaiah, we have passages that reveal that God will reign in the person of the Messiah, and he probably is the reason why the nations will go up to Zion to worship. Remember Kimitzion Tetze Torah in Isaiah 2? This echoes, this reflects that Lord of hosts is gonna be in Zion. So that was it. That was the end of chapter 24. The first chapter that began the Isaiah's apocalypse or the teachings on eschaton. And may we not forget to have that attitude, the heart that Isaiah shows us, that he is in grief. He's sad that people are perishing, not just being happy about the fact that he is not going to go through it, but also being sorrowful about those people who are not saved. May that be the heart we have towards those around us who are not saved. Blessings.